My dog is an asshole. Okay, so I got a vasectomy a few years ago, and it didn't quite go as planned, and it left me somewhat more susceptible to impact. And the dog just loves chewing stuffies, and he's got this desiccated corpse of what used to be a turtle or some damn thing, but it kind of looks like a hat. And so I put it on my head the other day thinking, oh, this will be funny. And so I've got it, and I'm like, oh, you want the hat? You want the hat? And I'm standing up, and of course, he tries to jump up. He can't get it. He can't get it. He does a little hop up, does like this kangaroo boxer punch right in the junk. I double over. He just grabs the hat, wanders away, wagging his tail, happy as hell. What a jerk.
My dog is in it. You know, whenever we have guests on, I always think they must be sitting in the back room going, they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. They have like zero clue. We'll get to the guests shortly. Welcome to Mashup number 92.
Welcome, everybody.
How's your junk doing tonight? How's your junk doing tonight?
Good. It recovered. I mean, you know, post-operation, I spent 6 months feeling like I'd just been hit in the junk 10 minutes ago, but it's fine now, you know, barring the odd impact.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Mashup 92. I'm doing quite well. Quite well. I got nothing to report on this side. I guess we'll get to Franco that'll be the first question he gets. You know, it's like, how's the junk tonight? Anyways, other than getting punched by the government over and over again, I'm sure. Mashup 92, sir. AMC Electrical.
By AMC Electrical. They're back again this year. They're like the OG of the individual episode sponsors. Great guy, Drew. He was just on the blue collar round table. Drove all the way up to Lloyd for that. And they're busy as hell again this year. And so they're not looking for more work. They're not advertising here because they're trying to drum up more business for themselves. They want to hire more people. So if you're in the Rocky Mountain House area and you want to start up with them, or if you're not and you like being next to awesome fishing, you should definitely look into it.
Yeah, Drew's a beauty. He's the guy who originally approached us about the idea of sponsoring individual episodes. So that's AMC Electrical. Drew McKay, he was just on the Blue Collar Roundtable, like 2 said, and I got a lot of time for the old blue collar world, and they kind of tell it the way it is. Speaking of the way it is, the Coots 4 have now been locked up 722 days. When we started this, you know, I was kind of like, yeah, we should bring it up every episode. Well, there you go, 722 now. So that's the running total, just to kind of keep it in everybody's mind. I
was going to say, just related to that, I don't know if anybody remembers the interview you did with Donald Best talking about the RCMP officers and whatnot, but Vance Crowe had this lady, Julie Kelly, on his latest episode, and it blew my mind. It talked about this FBI entrapment thing where they just convinced a bunch of people to try and kidnap the governor of Michigan. And so, I mean, the whole thing's crazy, but got receipts the whole way, and it kind of sounds reminiscent of everything that Donald Best was saying about the Coots 4.
So in other words, go listen to Vance Crowe. Vance, wherever you're at in St. Louis, driving around this morning, there you go. You're becoming a fixture of shout-outs on this thing. I was just on his podcast today, so there you go.
Oh,
you can go listen to me and him chat later on this week. Now, how about we get to Franco? Can we bring Franco in?
Let's bring in Franco.
Let's bring in Franco. Okay. All right. Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Franco Terrazzano. Franco, thanks for hopping in tonight.
Hey, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Now, we got a couple of things we want to get to. We're going to give a little bit of extra time. Me and Two's been doing this like rapid fire, holy Dinah, hold on to the train. But with a couple of things going on with our government and government waste, some spending, we thought, why not bring on Franco? You seem to be blowing up the Twitter waves with your videos. So how about we start here? Okay. European fiscal restraint leaves taxpayers on the hook for 600 grand. That's Parliament spent nearly 600 grand on luxury hotel rooms it didn't use when nearly half of the listed delegates for a conference of European parliamentarians it hosted either didn't show up or chose less expensive hotels. Franco, lay it down on us.
Well, guys, like, I'm almost at a loss for words, right? Which doesn't happen that often if you see me on Twitter. But this type of spending is just so ridiculous. I don't know even where to start. I mean, you kind of laid down the facts where the Fed spent 600,000 smackers on luxury hotel suites that they didn't even use. Right. So what was this conference for? Well, this conference was for what they call the Organization for Security and Cooperation. Now, that's largely for a conference of European parliamentarians. Okay.
Yeah, and it's been historically held in Europe too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's only been hosted I think the last time it was hosted in Canada was like the mid 1990s. And why is that? Well, I'm not like a PhD in geography, but I'm pretty sure Canada is pretty far away from Europe. You know what I mean? So they decided to host this thing in Vancouver, I believe. Yeah, pretty far away from Europe. And look, this is so crazy. I mean, first of all, folks, $600,000 of your money spent on luxury hotel rooms would have been bad enough, but it was $600K on luxury hotel rooms that they didn't even use. Now, one of the other crazy parts of this story, folks, is that you actually had these politicians in other countries who said, no, we're not doing this. It's too expensive. Or they decided to stay in cheaper hotels. Like, to me, as a Canadian taxpayer looking at our federal government, I couldn't even imagine one of our politicians going to another country and passing up a chance to stay at a 4 or 5-star hotel bill on the taxpayer dime. Like, could you imagine that as a Canadian taxpayer?
It would absolutely be, it would just be crazy. It would never happen. Now, granted, it's, we're talking about a tenth of the cost of what the Liberals ran up on that one hotel room in England for the Queen's funeral. But I mean, at the same time, that was my big takeaway from this as well, was that the Canadian government went to them and said, hey, we booked you guys a whole bunch of rooms. And they looked at the price tag and said, 9, that's too much. And then
Are you crazy?
And then they went and stayed at the Travelodge by the airport. And why can't we have some of those people? Who were those people? I want names. And can we get them on our ballots?
Yeah. Can they have a meeting with our prime minister, preferably over Zoom, right? So we don't have our prime minister meeting them at like the River Suite again, $6,000 courtesy of the taxpayer. So all of this is crazy, right? And when I said I didn't know where to start, it's because of the second fact that I'm going to throw at you fellas here. The original budget for this was $1.8 million. They went $650,000 over budget. So not only did they spent
like 30%. 30% over budget? If only we could get Trans Mountain to only be 30% over budget. Franco, this is a win. This is a win for Canadian taxpayers.
Dude, do you guys remember like the Anchorman scene? When he comes home,
I don't know what you mean, but yes.
The dog eats all the cheese, the wheel of cheese. Like, I don't even know how you did that. It's impressive. Like, sometimes I'm watching these stories of taxpayer waste, and if I didn't realize that it was hardworking people's money that they're blowing like this, I'd almost be like, how in the world did you even manage to spend that much money? Here, let me throw another story at you. It's kind of similar, right? It's like adjacent. It just broke from the National Post that, remember that Charlottetown cabinet retreat? Remember when Trudeau did that press conference? I think it was earlier in the summer or the fall or something like that, where he said,
the one on affordability?
So yeah, that one. He's like, so yeah, it's not an easy time to be a politician. Remember that press conference?
Yep.
Well, they spent almost $500,000, more than $400,000 on that 3-day cabinet retreat in Charlottetown. More than $400,000 on a 3-day cabinet retreat on affordability. Like, are they like, what is going on in their heads? Like, I'm talking high pitched right now because I don't even know how to comprehend this.
Well, I mean, we talked about when there was some preliminary stuff on that came out. And I just said, you know what, just as a rule, we should just establish in Canada that politicians are not allowed to expense meals where the price on the menu is just listed as market. Just market price. No. Okay, we'll get a cheeseburger. Well, and then this, I hadn't heard about this, but that's not unexpected at all.
It just broke. I mean, it reminds me of the time the Governor General and the battalion of bureaucrats that they sent to the Middle East for that week-long trip to Dubai, they spent almost 6 figures on in-flight catering food, right? They enjoyed beef Wellington with ragu, carpaccio, all those fancy feasts. Like, and then
they redacted the amount of orange juice.
Yeah, and then they tried to spin Canadians. They're like, oh, we're so surprised about the cost as well. We had normal airplane food. Well, You know, I fly a lot like on Air Canada and WestJet. You can't even get beef Wellington flavored chips, let alone the real deal.
You know, I'd let you two go back and forth all night. Maybe that's what we should have done to us. Maybe we should have just scrapped every other headline known to man and just let you two go back and forth. Because, you know, the one thing we know about the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, they're going to lay it down on the government waste. And it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that's coming to an end anytime soon. So let's usher in to fund the CBC for one, shall we? Because CBC CEO Catherine Tate had her committee appearance, and you were the guy that I watched the video on, Franco. 99 million in CBC bonuses since 2015. Seems like I'm in the right industry, just playing for the wrong team.
Well, and remember, like, that's all paid for by tax dollars. And you know, a lot of times, you know, we're joking in this conversation, we're having a laugh. But we're doing that because the real issue here is that you have so many people who are struggling. I don't need to tell you guys, you know, how hard it has been, especially in places like Alberta since like the winter of 2015, right? And how many people have been struggling through that economic downturn, through the pandemic, through government lockdowns, now through inflation, which was in large part driven by government policies, printing press, lockdowns, tax hikes, you name it. And then you find out that organizations like the CBC are handing out tens of millions of dollars in bonuses over the last couple of years. And so it was good to see Tate in front of the committee, essentially being cross-examined by all members of parliament. And the reason that Canadians even know about the bonuses, it's not that they proactively disclose this stuff. It's that the Canadian Taxpayers Federation got all this information from access to information requests. So before I let you guys jump back,
baby.
oh yeah, we dug up this information, right? We dug it up.
Oh,
And-
well, this is, I guess it's a good thing we thought of you then.
Well, thanks guys. I appreciate it.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
No. That and look, and what really drove me crazy watching the 2 hours of this, let alone everything that we just kind of laid to set the stage here, is so Tate started off her testimony saying that the CBC doesn't give out so-called bonuses. That's what she said. She said, we give out at risk or performance pay. Everyone who's not employed by the CBC knows that those are just other words for bonus. But even more than that, like the CBC's own records that they sent us because of access to information laws called them a bonus, right? So on the one hand, you have the CBC president saying that CBC is so important to essentially combat misinformation. But then on the very other hand, almost in the same sentence, you have the CBC's president trying to mislead Canadians.
That's very true. I quite liked personally Andrew Scheer's take on it, which was if there are performance incentives. And he detailed, he's like, your viewership is down. You need more bailouts. There's decreased trust in the media. And he went on a few other things. He's like, what metric could you possibly use to justify a performance incentive?
Well,
yeah,
the problem with all of this, right, is that this is happening throughout government departments at large. It's happening throughout all, like not all, but through many, many crown corporations, Bank of Canada, bonuses, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, bonuses, doesn't matter, right? Like, so this is happening. But one of the big issues here beyond all of this is that we actually don't see, like, it doesn't seem like Tate is going to reverse these bonuses, right? Actually, she gave every indication that executives, including herself, are going to keep on the bonus gravy train, right? And so Tate's compensation, when you look at everything she's paid over a year, is somewhere between $470K all the way up to $620,000. Of course, that's all paid for by the taxpayer. She gave every indication that bonuses are going to still go out to CBC executives, including herself. In fact, kudos to Member of Parliament from Lethbridge, Rachel Thomas, who asked Tate point blank, do you think that you met the performance targets that would trigger your bonus? And Tate replied, absolutely yes. That's what she said. I thought she was.
I would love
close
to see what those, like, what are the metrics? I mean, we just talked a week or two about how CBC, the entire radio system went down for a while. You know, I mean, we've had so many different things about them getting details wrong or viewership dropping off, and whenever you see the top 30 shows in Canada, none of them are on the CBC. And I feel like I feel like I could start my own station and just play the Log Drivers Waltz on repeat, and it would get better ratings than the CBC.
Twos, me and you tried running election coverage and had nothing but issues that night, and we still
Zero
outperformed
budget,
the CBC.
zero advertising, and yeah.
But hey,
Yeah,
let's
so-
give a couple $1 million bonus out to the executives because they're doing a great job. Somewhere
Okay.
in that world, folks, they think they're doing a good job because
Do
they're
not
fighting
buzz
the
him
big
yet.
giant of us yahoos.
They are. We're behemoths, Sean. We're absolutely unstoppable at this point. And the only person who can possibly derail this train is a tiny little red-haired lady who may or may not live in New York.
Here, let me jump in with one other thing. So I really want to hit this. I really want to hit this point home, right? Because at the end of the day, the people who are supposed to be held accountable to Canadian taxpayers are our members of parliament, right? And one other thing happened that Thomas, the member of parliament from Lethbridge, she brought forward a very simple motion, forced Tate to come back to the committee and disclose how much money and bonuses she's going to pay out for 2023 and to the number of employees that will receive a bonus, right? So a very simple
basic.
motion,
Pretty
basic. She wasn't asking for personal information or ways to identify certain employees, just how much money and number of employees to get a bonus, right? And that should be basic information that all Canadian taxpayers deserve. So the motion failed. Conservative members of parliament voted in favor of it, but the motion failed because the Liberal, NDP, and Bloc MPs voted against the motion.
And the Green too, if I'm not mistaken.
There's the tweet,
there it is,
Franco. Yeah.
So you can see right there
maybe
all
the Greens weren't on it.
who voted against it, right? A couple Liberals, one NDP, and one Bloc MP voted against it. We tagged them because accountability. One of the members of parliament there tried to take a shot at me, trying to say, hey, those are in the annual reports, but they're not. And it was almost like that member of parliament wasn't even listening to the committee, because right in the committee, Tate confirmed that the information was released because of an access to information request. Of course, that access to information request came from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. So at the end of the day, like, why are those members of parliament trying to hide the bonus information that Canadian taxpayers deserve? It's completely unacceptable.
Completely agree.
Appreciate you coming on, Franco. I
Yes,
wish
Franco.
I know Twos is sitting there going, we should be talking longer about this. I'm like, listen, folks, Twos is giving me 30 bloody headlines to get through here tonight.
More
and,
than 30.
That's right.
So, hey, thanks for coming, Franco. Chris, we love you. You're up next.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not cheating on you with Franco. You're still our go-to.
Hey, Franco, appreciate it coming on, and I appreciate everything the Canadian Taxpayers Federation is doing, and the work you guys continue to do. I put you guys in the same breath as Blacklock's reporter, because between the two of you, the amount of stuff you break for the Canadian taxpayer, the Canadian just citizen, is a bit insane when you think about it. And the fact that CBC continues to do things and our federal representatives continue to try and block said things is a head scratcher. Although I'm sure if people dig deeper and harder on it, they'll find some, well, I'm sure that'll come out here at some point, won't it? Either way, Franco, thanks for hopping on and giving us some time tonight.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you. Take care.
Okay. That's Franco Terrazzano. Now, folks, we have to turn up the pace here because, as I said, Twos has got... he's got me sweating today. Okay, here we go. This week in politicians resigning. Here we go. Let's see how many we can get through in the next 40 minutes. MLA for Moose Jaw Whack-A-Mole has resigned. I have no idea. Is that how you say that?
Whack-A-Mole or Whack-A-Mole?
I don't know. Has resigned from the Saskatchewan Party caucus after Moose Jaw police charged him with assault. Greg Lawrence, 58, was charged with assault contrary to Section 266 of the Criminal Code and assault by choking.
Yeah, which is pretty fucking specific. I didn't realize that there was a specific, like, it's not just assault, it's assault by choking. And so, like, if you're gonna get into weird, specific, oddly strange ways that elected officials just bow out of things, this has got to be right up there. And it's the second one in a few months. You had the guy from Turtle Lake, if I recall correctly.
Turtleford get busted for prostitution in the middle of a sting operation in the middle of
the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was trying to get a daytime hooker, and this is I don't know, 2 for 2, I guess. Here's another twofer in politics.
This week in emergency debacles. Okay, this is a friend of the show. I got a lot of time for Jocelyn Berziak.
You remember who originally told you that she should be on your show,
correct,
right?
2'sDay. Here's what Sundance Construction wrote. I really don't want to hear fuck all about how good Canadian healthcare is. After work, one of my guys had a table saw mishap, and it was it wasn't pretty. Bone good, missed tendons, but it's a mess. I did the initial trauma care, but after 7 hours in the waiting room, it needed to be addressed. We told the emergency room staff to get me in the dressing kits and surgical closures. They didn't want to, but in the end gave them to us. I cleaned and irrigated it and did the closures myself, packed it, wrapped it. I did, and we'll do the follow-up wound care myself. Not gonna lie, I was shaking hard doing it. I have never had to do one so serious without some outside medical care. So that's Jocelyn Berziak. Another
absolute badass.
And another story from Manitoba. Right? That's the third story I think we've had in as many weeks.
This is fourth. This is the fourth week in a row, if I'm not mistaken, that we've been doing this.
So Jocelyn, nice work. If you have no idea who that is, she's been on the podcast multiple times. It's one badass lady, and she's just showing a different way on how she can just completely take care of herself. She is a
Yeah, there was another one in Winnipeg.
and the NHL game where everyone is an all-star. Here, let's take a look at this.
My buddy told me this is just a microdose of mushrooms. My buddy told me this is just a microdose of mushrooms, and he was lying. So I'll be honest, I thought I was in Blades of Glory for most of the time that I was out there until it sort of settled down, and then I realized, holy, I am at the NHL All-Star Game.
That is literally Michael Bublé at a press conference. The guy who did the bubbly soft drink advertisements and is basically number 2 in Christmas songs in the world next to Mariah Carey. That dude was tripping balls on psilocybin at the All-Star game.
Yeah, what can you say? Some people are like, Bublé is going to be their go-to guy now, right? Like,
yeah,
that's just about as wild as it gets. You know?
I think it was wonderful. And then the other one was that there was a bunch of people bitching on Twitter that they didn't do the national anthem in French.
In both.
So, and I saw like this the most absolutely wonderful takedown of it. Sean, you got it ready?
No, I don't. I took it down. I'm moving on.
Here's what it is. The Frenchman hate you and says, go fuck your... Okay, so there was another guy like, fuck the French, another French guy triggered. This Frenchie gets in and he's all pissed off and he says, the Frenchman hate you and says, go fuck yourself while your old redhead Canadian old lady is sleeping into a dumpster and while your sissy pussy son is being effed by Jessica Yanev, a typical Canadian hero. I didn't even know what to say. I was like, that is just, it's poetic. It's beautiful. I need to talk about it live on the internet.
The importance of an honest conversation. So here, this was sent George Chahill, when Premier Danielle Smith comes to Ottawa next week, I hope she'll explain to Natural Resources Committee why she's putting clean energy investments at risk. And she responded back, I'd be happy to come speak. Is this a formal invitation? As luck would have it, I just landed in Ottawa.
Yes. And then she actually followed up in a press conference where she said, I was invited by George Chahal. I hope he follows through with the invitation. I've freed up time to come speak to you people about it. Thing about it is that this is a pause on approval of windmills over 1 megawatt. It doesn't negate any ones that are existing. It just says that the application process is not going to be stamped until at least March, where they finally hammer out a lot of the regulations, which is just a Wild West, and they don't exist. And I don't know why nobody at the UCP could ever just say that.
Smoke them if you got them. A review of prescribed safer supply programs in BC says the province should increase the range of drugs available to include smokable fentanyl and other substances. Because why not? BC Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry says in a report that the province should work with drug makers and distributors to expand choices for those at risk of overdose. The report says an ethical analysis of prescribed safer supply concludes that interventions to reduce certain or severe harms are justified, even if it means there may be uncertain harms to the broader population.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure that Pfizer and AstraZeneca are going to start manufacturing fentanyl for the Canadian government.
Oh, yeah, boy, oh, boy.
Oh, and kids are getting fentanyl from vending machines in BC as well.
Before we skip that 100%, I was talking to Vance about this today, so I'm going to bring it up so you can actually see what the heck I'm talking about. Critics are raising concerns that drugs from Vancouver's groundbreaking safe supply narcotic vending machines could be ending up in the hands of youth. The Safe machines are meant to provide people with addiction access to a safer drug alternative without fear, shame, or stigma. And there you go. There's the machines.
Yeah, or ID checks. There's a reason why you can't buy. Remember in the 80s, that small town bar in your hometown had the vending machine with the smokes in it? You know why they got rid of that? Because you can't actually check to see how old somebody is when you put $5 in the machine.
All right, so this brings us to NDP blows the roof off the lobby. This is I'll play just a quick little thing here. Marty up north, friend of the show, had a tweet out the video here with Jagmeet Singh getting interviewed and asking questions. So here we'll play just a small snippet of it.
When you see long food bank lines in sprawling tent cities, do you feel any responsibility for the struggles that so many Canadians are facing right now?
By virtue of keeping the Liberals in power.
Yeah, I appreciate the question.
I just love that the guy he's co-paneling with had to explain to him the nuance of the question. When somebody from the Canadian mainstream legacy journalism crowd asks you a question and you're still not smart enough to understand it, you're probably not smart enough to be leading a party, let alone trying to run for prime minister, which luckily is never going to fucking happen.
And I was saying it too before we started the show. What I was fascinated by was his answer on power. I have power because it's a minority government, and what can I do with said power? And he talks about why would we invoke, a federal election where it's going to cost the taxpayers a whole bunch of money and nothing gets solved. That was his mindset.
Okay, so this is the most power that the NDP are likely to ever have in Parliament. I mean, on an infinite timeline, sure, but let's face it, Canada is going to implode in the next 50 years. And so he's not going to force an election because him being the swaying votes, it's not anything that he's ever going to be able to top reasonably ever. And triggering an election that brings a conservative majority is just pissing away all that power that he's been craving for so long. But he was talking about how the CPC has a bunch of lobbyists in that clip. That's factually incorrect, but it's kind of vaguely close. And then it turns out that everybody on Twitter was like, well, you know what? If you've got Here's a lobbying firm co-founded by NDP strategist Brian Topp, lobbying on behalf of Loblaws. Here's Katie Telford lobbying for Pfizer Canada. Katie Telford, the manager of the Prime Minister's office or some such damn thing. Basically, the head bureaucratic person for the Liberal Party is a lobbyist for Pfizer. Is anybody shocked by that? And then Stephen Taylor, it took me 2 minutes on the lobbyist registrar to find senior Liberals actively lobbying for Canada's top grocery chains. You probably don't want to pursue this. Okay, and then also there was Trudeau stayed in Galen Weston's cabin a couple years ago during COVID. So there's all of that Jagmeet Singh's stupid inane comment just blew the lid off of.
Irony. Liberal death cult hampered by its own bureaucracy.
You hate to see karma hit people like this, Sean.
Health officials are slow walking plans to expand the program, stating there are not enough. I'm talking about MAID, folks. Are not enough doctors, specifically psychiatrists, in Canada to evaluate mentally ill people who wish to die, according to the announcement made by Health Minister Mark Holland and Justice Minister Arif Virani. And then I thought it worthwhile to point out over 13,000 Canadians were euthanized as part of the program in 2022.
Yeah, that's more than people die of fentanyl, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm just pulling it out of my butt. But it's a big damn number. And then also apparently it's going to be illegal for us to try and discourage you to partake in MAID. We're, to try and scare you away from it. I could go to jail for saying that it would fucking kill you. So bring it on.
Yeah. That's actually a good point to bring up. This was Lion Advocacy. In Canada, if you interfere or impede someone from accessing medical assistance and dying or cause them fear, you could be arrested and put in jail for up to 10 years. That's right, folks. Jail for trying to save a life. You can't make this stuff up. So yes, that's important to point out as well, too.
Yep. Is that why Loblaw is given 11 million in freezers? Technically, it was 12 million. And my theory is that Jagmeet Singh is in cahoots with Galen Weston. Put on your tinfoil hats for a second, folks. He has done nothing but discourage new entrants into the grocery market with all of this grandstanding, and no one's going to want to get in, which means that it's strengthening the grocery cartel in Canada. And it's working so well that it can't possibly be anything but on purpose.
Oh, tinfoil hat wearing. Something we do from time to time here.
Zane, most psychiatrists hung up their keys after Bill C4. I don't know which one Bill C4 was, but it sounds like it was the bomb.
God save Queens. Queens University new provost Matthew Evans, who has been overseeing controversial budget cuts, negotiated a tenured professorship for his wife when he was hired last year as the Kingston, Ontario school's top academic and budgetary authority. And this is all coming of news of the unsettling hiring decision has landed loudly on campus when widespread layoffs are anticipated among staff. Entire academic programs are facing elimination. A hiring freeze is imposed across the entire school. Adjunct professors and junior lecturers face drastically reduced employment opportunities, and students worry about the effect of all this on their education.
Queens is on a precipice. They're spending way too much money. They don't have enough money coming in. They bring in this guy to just slash across the board, like the two Bobs in Office Space. Like, what would you say you do around here sort of thing? This is that guy, and they're going to bring him in to save them money. And he says, okay, cool. I'll come in to save you guys money if you give my wife a cushy job. The irony, Sean. Queens can fuck off.
Smith takes fangs out of people who want to take dicks off. Oh, boy.
Tell me I'm wrong.
All right. Well, you're not wrong. All right. Here. You probably heard lots about it, folks, but here's some of the facts. Alberta's new gender-affirming pronoun policies announced by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. Top and bottom gender-affirming surgeries will be banned for minors aged 17 and under. Doctors say bottom surgeries aren't performed on youth, and top surgeries are rare. Puberty blockers and hormone therapies for gender affirmation will not be permitted for children under 15 and under. Use age 16 and 17 will be permitted to start hormone therapies for gender affirmation as long as they are deemed mature enough and have parental, physician, and psychologist approval. Parental notification and consent will be required for a school to alter the name or pronouns of any child under 15. Students who are 16 or 17 won't need permission, but schools will need to let their parents know first. Parents will have to opt in their children every time a teacher plans to teach about gender identity, sexual orientation, or sexuality. Alberta law currently requires parental notification, gives them the option to opt students out. All third-party teaching materials on gender identity, sexual orientation, or sexuality will need to be approved in advance by the Education Ministry. Transgender women will be banned from competing in women's sports leagues. Smith said the government will work with leagues to set up co-ed or gender-neutral divisions for sports. There you go. That's the big.
That's what everybody's losing their goddamn minds about. Basically, they're saying trans rights are human rights, and they're denying us our rights. And the only thing being denied to these people is the right to cut people's dicks off. And you know what? Here's the thing. If you guys think it's super important to just cut a dick off because you, I don't know, collect them, or you can trade them for fentanyl at vending machines in BC or whatever the hell it is. There's a whole shit ton of sex offenders that are getting out on bail in Canada that you could track down, not through the sex registry because they're not registered there, but some other way you could probably get a hold of them and maybe get the machete from the guy off the Greyhound bus and just go hack and slash, just like the guy from Queens was supposed to do to the budget. Just cut off all those dicks, and no one is going to stop you. And half of them say they're transgender anyway, so they'd be happy about it, right?
I thought this was a great tweet from Kirk Lubomoff. He said, a reminder, in Alberta, it is illegal for under 18-year-olds to use a tanning bed, even with consent, and for under 25 require an ID. So there you go.
Okay, so Danielle Smith with the evil UCP wants everyone in Alberta to be super white.
I literally have nothing to add to this whatsoever.
Yeah, the funny thing was I think the sub little bits of information went all the way to P on this. And so I was like, all the way from A to P. By the way, it's not just like a dick joke again. But anyway, I was like, I don't know where Sean's going to go with this, but we could go anywhere, and there's nothing but gold.
Okay, Elon says it best. Tweeted, when you hear the names of legislation or anything done by the government, it is worth remembering that the group that sent so many people to the guillotine during the French Revolution was called the Committee of Public Safety, not the cut off their heads committee.
Okay, this is perfect. This is a point that I've tried to make a bunch of times, but I'm not Elon Musk, sadly. And there's several billion reasons why. Anyway, the thing about it is when people talk about affordable housing or $10 a day daycare, does it actually cost only $10 a day? Fuck no. It costs way more than that, but the rest of the cost is hidden. When it's affordable housing, it makes it affordable for a very small select few at the vast, overwhelming detriment of everyone else, including other people who could be better helped by just getting out of the way. And it doesn't matter what it is that the government does. Basically, they always try and come up with some kind of a sexy name, and it's always wrong. Carbon tax? It's technically not on carbon. It's on carbon dioxide.
Did you see what Elon Musk video put out? Did you see the Elon Musk says a carbon tax would solve a bunch of the problems?
How much do you like Milton Friedman? Dude, the guy's a god. Like, I'm pretty sure that when he went up there with that dude in the beard you like so much, he was like, here, take my seat. Okay. So anyway, Milton Friedman, I mean, he didn't. He's Jewish, so he went to hell. But because they don't believe in heaven. There's nothing about heaven in, like, there's heaven.
Get to your point. Get to your point.
Okay, anyways, Milton Friedman makes a decent argument that when a third party is being extraneously negatively affected by the actions of another person, there should be some sort of a mechanism in place to disincentivize that behavior and to provide them recompense for negative afflictions. Now, in a situation, for example, like Canada, where we've got so many billion trees that we're a carbon sink, there's quite a lot of wiggle room before that becomes an actual practical application of it. However, outside of that, there is a very limited, decent argument you could make for a small carbon tax.
Actually, maybe this is the better one.
Hughes is an idiot. It's not mine. It's Milton Friedman.
I know.
The line isn't Milton Friedman is an idiot, because he's not. The man's a genius, or at least he used to be until he died.
I'm just saying all your praise for Elon Musk, and he's walking around now with a video saying a carbon tax could solve a lot of the problems.
No. Well,
how's that
going? Canada? Okay,
how's that going in Canada?
China, India, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, they're not gonna. China ain't putting on a carbon tax.
No. You know what? I mean, we didn't even have a coronavirus tax. That would have been awesome.
There's only 4 people in Canada who can't get bail. Okay, this This is a wild story. Here we go. A man accused of importing a large enough load of methamphetamine to give every Manitoban 3 doses of the drug was granted bail in Brandon court on Thursday.
Yeah.
And I'm going to butcher this name.
Meanwhile, every single Manitoban is like, we could have each had 3 doses.
Kamal Preet Singh Sidhu, 29 of Winnipeg, is facing charges of importing and exporting and trafficking methamphetamine after Canada Border Services Agency's officers seized 406. Here, and I'm gonna pull it up here so everybody can see this juggernaut. Holy Mackinac. That's what they seized. 406 kilograms of the drug while inspecting the semi-truck that he was attempting to drive across the Beausevain border crossing on January 14th.
To be fair, there's probably like 20 pounds of saran wrap in there.
Sure. Approximately $50 million worth. He got bail.
Yeah. I mean, which, in Canadian currency is like about enough to buy a pack of gum, a pack of bacon, and a loaf of bread. But it used to be a lot of money back in the day.
Controversial propaganda outlet calls podcast controversial. Spotify has penned a new multi-year deal with controversial podcast host Joe Rogan, whose enormously popular show will soon be available on competing platforms, including YouTube and Apple Podcasts. The Wall Street Journal, which first reported the new deal on Friday, estimated the new contract was worth as much as $250 million US over its multi-year term.
Which kind of means nothing. Like if it's a 400-year contract, that's not crazy money.
He got $100 million for 3 years.
And that probably, I was going to say it was probably.
And now he's getting a deal of $250 million.
Obviously, it worked out well for Spotify.
Yeah. And it shows you where the money's going. It's going to alternative shows. Like $250 million.
Doesn't do that.
Look at what Tucker Carlson on X.
Actually, you know what? It's peanuts compared to what CBC gets. So you're saying all the money's going there, but no, CBC gets all of it.
Like stepfather, like stepson. As Justice Minister in 1967, former Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau argued against revoking the citizenship of Canadian citizen the Soviet Union had convicted of heading a firing squad responsible for the death of 5,100 Jews during the Second World War, says a 670-page report prepared for the Commission of Inquiry on Wars Criminals decades ago. The document, now largely unredacted, was released by the Library and Archives on Thursday. It was originally prepared for the Duchesne's Commission, which in the mid-1980s investigated Nazi immigration into Canada. Other newly unredacted parts of Riddell's report revealed that in 1954, the RCMP was aware that the United States was trying to resettle in Canada people who had aided in fighting against communism. Riddell wrote the U.S. told the RCMP that some of those individuals had criminal records, of which a number arose from cases involving moral turpitude, categories she claimed included former Nazis.
Yeah, so Pierre Elliott Trudeau swept a bunch of Nazi shit under the rug and just gave it the okay pass before he became prime minister. And then you'll recall Justin Trudeau, the Liberals, recently invited a Nazi to Parliament where they gave him a standing fucking ovation. And then Anthony Rota got fired over it, basically. And then it came out literally today that Anthony Rota was the fall guy because they produced the actual letter that had invited him there, and it wasn't on behalf of Anthony Rota's office or his constituency. It was directly from the office of the prime minister. So they fucking lied. I'm shocked.
I don't want to buzzer because I think that's a huge point to make, that it was the prime minister's office that invited him. I think that's like, everyone should sit on that for just 2 seconds.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, yeah.
Warnings on smokes. Step it up. This is Corey Morgan. Here you go. He goes, how about putting this kind of imagery on meth, fentanyl pipes, and syringes that are handed out? Oh, no, though. Wouldn't want to stigmatize the addicts, right?
Okay, so yeah, you got pack of smokes now that have crazy pictures on them and of like some kind of open heart surgery or some damn thing. And then it looks like the individual smokes are now being stamped with pithy sayings about how bad they are for you, right? If you really want people to stop smoking, you should probably put whatever the hell the current price of a pack of cigarettes is on that in big letters, because that's what's actually going to stop people from smoking. And you know what? Here's the thing, Sean, is if we're going to put giant glaring warnings on everything that's bad for you, I want a picture of a foreclosure on a ballot next to the NDP.
I was going to say maybe a picture on something that gets jabbed in your arm, but hey, what do I know?
Dude, we got that coming up. They've totally turned a corner.
It's not just Canada. As reported by Tom's Hardware, there are about 1,900 official government application procedures that stipulated businesses must submit floppies or CD-ROMs specifically containing supplementary data until last week. Finally,
This
however,
is in
Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry is looking to abandon this outdated practice. So they were still requiring CD-ROMs or floppy disks.
Yeah, the little 3.5-inch floppy disks that the save icon looks like. You had to actually submit those still to this day in Japan. So it's not like Revenue Canada where they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to fax you something. And you're like, where? I don't even know anybody who has a fax machine. It's not just Canada. All bureaucracy around the world has no incentive to innovate because they have a monopoly, like Milton Friedman talks about in other discussions. And as a result, they're still dealing with floppy disks, which are 1.44 megabytes. You probably couldn't even fit a half-decent spreadsheet on it anywhere. And they're finally now they're moving on to the 80s. Like, I remember those giant laser discs. That's probably the next thing that Japan's going to move to.
Breaking news. Nerds hate jocks. Allowing children to play impact sports such as rugby or boxing amounts to a form of child abuse, researchers from 3 British universities said in a new study. Letting children play impact sports contradicts existing British laws that prohibit child abuse and that sports governing bodies effectively groom children into sustaining and accepting brain trauma.
See, I don't know. Personally, I think contact sports like that are a great thing to have in England because, let's face it, the more teeth those limey bastards get knocked out, the better they're going to look.
Tampon? Tamp off. The tampon dispenser in a boy's bathroom in a Connecticut school was ripped down 20 minutes after being installed. The principal sent out an email describing the event as the most egregious instance of vandalism and promised consequences for the list of suspects. Democrats in Connecticut passed a law requiring all schools to have a menstrual products in at least one boy's bathroom. And it goes on. That's
scroll down in the comments there. One of the comments, I should have warned you about it ahead of time, was that somebody put a picture of it. There it is. There it is. Someone had ripped it off the wall and put it in the shitter where it belongs. And that was just beautiful. Okay. Now look, I get it. I'm going to catch hell. Anybody who
you're going to catch hell for this story?
For what I'm about to say. From what I'm about to say. Chuck Prodnick's going to beat the shit out of me. So military guys, you guys are complaining because you're not supposed to, you think it's dehumanizing or whatever else. But tampons were initially invented to staunch the bleeding from bullet wounds. If you would want them anywhere, you would want them on military bases. I don't see what you guys are complaining about.
White liberals.
Great job on the military roundup, by the way. I still got a few minutes of it left to go, but I quite enjoyed it, except for the fact that when I pitched you the idea for the coins on the show, I specifically mentioned Chuck Prodnick as the kind of person who would appreciate small quantities of silver. And I was like, and what are small quantities of silver usually shaped like? And you're like, coins. I'm like, exactly. You should look into this. You should do it. And then you did it. And then you gave one to Chuck Prodnick, who I specifically mentioned in the pitch for you to start giving out coins. And you couldn't even give me the decency of a shout out, you motherfucker.
White liberals are crazy. 2's is kind of embodying it right now, folks. White liberals are more prone to mental health disorders than individuals who identify as conservatives or moderates, according to a Pew Research Center survey. 62% of whites who classify themselves as very liberal or liberal have been told by a doctor they have a mental health condition, as compared to 26% of conservatives and 20% of moderates, the study found.
I don't even know how I could possibly improve on anything you just said. It surprises no one. And it's just, 62% of white liberals have mental health issues or have been officially diagnosed with mental health issues. I'm guessing there are 28% or 38% rather that just haven't gotten around to seeing a doctor yet. Maybe they live in Canada.
The bare necessities. If this isn't this is just a great story. Massive taxidermy polar bear stolen in bizarre Canadian heist. Us Canadians, we love stealing weird stuff. I'll give it that. The bear, standing some 12 feet tall, is believed to have been snatched during the cold snap in early January with temperatures nearly minus 30 degrees Celsius. It was reported stolen on January 22nd by the operators of the Lily Lake Resort, according to police, and that resort is located in Sturgeon County, about 50K north of Edmonton, dudes.
This is wonderful. They stole so polar bears. I'm not sure if you realize how big these motherfuckers are, but they are not tiny. Right. So for perspective, I found this on Reddit. So it's definitely legit and it's a quality drawing. So if you look closely, you will see a cartoon of a park ranger who looks a lot like Rogue from the 90s X-Men comic. She's all green and she's got real perky breasts. And she's standing next to a whole bunch of bears and being absolutely dwarfed by them. The Ursus maritimus, polar bear, male length 240 to 260 centimeters. I have no idea how big that is, but I'm guessing it's huge. Biped height 270 centimeters tall. But anyways, next to Rogue the Ranger, massive specimen, and they just heisted it. This isn't something you sneak in your back pocket. It's not some taxidermied raccoons, which, by the way, apparently was the setup heist for this. This is the one where they felt things out. This isn't even the first taxidermy heist that has been pulled at this lodge. I'm beginning to think there's a pattern here.
China is an asshole.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Derek Holmedal. Polar bear rug at Halford Hides is $10K. I'd believe it.
China is asshole. All right. Foreign interference networks are deeply embedded in Canadian politics and operate at every level of government, according to a declassified intelligence report obtained by Global News. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service report released under the Access to Information Act also warned that foreign interference was incrementally weakening Canada's democracy. It said foreign interference was unlike traditional diplomatic activity in that it used secrecy and deception to influence Canadian policymaking, public narratives, and civil society. Quoted, foreign interference networks are active throughout Canada and at all levels of government. Many of these networks are deeply embedded in Canada's political and social fabric, the report said.
This is so bizarre. Sean, I find it absolutely baffling that the communist country waging an ongoing war of disinformation against Western civilization that donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Trudeau Foundation actively is trying to affect the outcomes of elections, and in such a way that the prime minister who got all that money to his foundation didn't seem fit to mention to the public. I mean, what the hell could possibly be going on here? None of this is news. It's just further evidence being uncovered in this. And there's nothing, I don't know, there's nothing revelatory in this. It's just, hey, there's more of it. We've got more receipts. At what point is enough going to be enough?
I think it's deeply troubling. That's for sure. I mean, we heard about this. We've been talking off and on about this too for multiple weeks, right? It comes as a recurring theme probably once a month right now. And they said, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. No, it's pretty bad. The vaccines are getting better. I know now he's pulling my leg. The latest version the latest version of the COVID-19 vaccines were 54% effective and preventing symptomatic infection in adults, according to the first U.S. study to assess how well the shots work. And the CDC recommends the new shots for everyone 6 months or older, folks. Meanwhile,
this is amazing news, Sean. Honestly, like the technology here is growing by leaps and bounds. All right. They're all the way up to, after several years of this and people being on like their 1938 whatever injection, they're now up to 54% effective. I think, honestly, this is, if they can round that hump at 60%, I'll be ready. It'll be time.
This is the video we didn't show is while there was a CTV news report about heart attacks and how they're on the rise. 60,000 Canadians are having them, and now the majority of those are below the age of 65. But
Isn't it weird?
nothing to
Isn't it
see
weird
here,
how they all
folks.
just, probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, they all just the stats just went right off a cliff, and they haven't figured out if there was any giant event that just correlated with that. I wonder what the kind of spitballing they're doing. Anybody have any ideas? Does anybody wonder maybe what might have been the issue? I just will never know.
Total eclipse of the education system. The Toronto District School Board has approved a staff recommendation of changing the date of an upcoming professional activity day, a PA day, to coincide with a rare solar eclipse to set to rise above parts of Canada. On Wednesday,
solar eclipses aren't rare, for the record.
I agree. On Wednesday, the trustees voted in favor, 21-1, of a staff recommendation to move the PA day from Friday, April 19th to Monday, April 8th to align with the total solar eclipse out of abundance of caution. And it was quoted, out of concern for student safety and well-being and to mitigate any operational impacts that may be caused by the eclipse. The article went on to say that it would be
like... Did they realize that it really only goes on for a couple minutes, even if you're in the path of totality?
Yeah, and that it's a total cool thing to do at school and see it and build
it's
a teacher.
Something that the kids would remember for their whole lives. But here's the thing: is when it comes to it doesn't matter what union you're in Canada. Whenever there's an opportunity for anything, the answer is always, you're going to have to give us the day off work, no matter what it is. It's never like, oh, you know what? That sounds really difficult. Maybe we could help you out with that. Or, oh, you know what? We'd really love to go above and beyond the call of duty. Like, oh, no, danger pay, day off work, fuck off. The sun isn't going to be the only thing blacked out that day, I tell you what. That's what our unions are in Canada today, and it drives me crazy.
Grocers checking out of Canada. Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne is once again insisting that he is reaching out to international grocers in the hopes they will open up shop in Canada. The minister says he spoke to one foreign grocer just this morning as part of his efforts to court new players to join the Canadian grocery sector. Champagne met with Canadian grocers in the fall about food inflation and demanded they create plans to stabilize grocery prices or face consequences, including potential tax measures.
Sean, let's put on our tinfoil hats for a second. I've got a theory about this, and I think that Jagmeet Singh is in cahoots with Galen Weston.
You're ESG falling off a cliff. Japanese retail investors are banning ESG mutual funds. Investors pulled a total of 660 billion yen, 4.5 billion for relevance, from funds last year, according to the research firm Morningstar. That's more than 4 times the outflows of 150 billion yen in 2022. The shift is due to investors favoring mutual funds focused on specific investment themes rather than the sustainability goals related to ESG funds.
Why do people invest money, Sean?
To make money.
To make money. And what's the point of ESG funds, Sean?
Not to make money.
Not to make money. So you've got this vehicle designed to make money, and you put in something, you put it in a direction that money does not come from. And then when people have been in that vehicle for a while, they're like, oh, you know what? This isn't going in the direction I want. I'm going to hop off, and I'm going to go back in this direction. Spoiler alert, nobody's surprised by any of this. This is the entirely expected outcome. I have been talking about this for literally years, and I've felt sometimes like I've been talking to a wall. Not with you specifically, but just people, man. They're the fucking worst.
Mark Gerritsen is not a serious person. He had I don't even know what you want me to say here. What do you want me to say?
So Mark Gerritsen presented a petition in the House of Commons the other day about solidarity with the Ukraine government, and it garnered over 30 signatures. And while it was being presented, he was being mocked. What's your take on it, Sean?
That's it. That's exactly what happened.
That's exactly okay. So this guy presents this video of him getting shit talked in Parliament, and he puts his own subtitles on there in Comic Sans font. And then the guy wonders why nobody takes him fucking seriously. He puts forth a 30 signature petition. You and I could get a 30 signature petition to say that we should each get $1 billion. And we could present it in Parliament, and it would have more legitimacy than his, because we would actually use Times New Roman. Okay.
You know, if we got 30 signatures on that and presented it at Parliament, we might actually get it enacted. People might be like, that actually makes a lot of sense. I bet you 2's and Sean could do a lot of good with that money.
We would.
We'd spend $600,000 on luxury hotels that nobody stayed in just because we could.
We spent $500,000 designing the architecture for the solar panels on a barn that we're never even going to go to. Zane again. ESG, yet another unicorn of blind hopes. Zane, what is that car in your picture?
While we wait, Jamaican, your own set of rules, Justin.
I was hoping you were going to do an accent.
I can't do it. I can't do it, folks. I'm just happy I read it off right. Canadian's interim ethics commissioner. How about this for a name? Okay, this is a great name. Ethics commissioner Conrad von Finkenstein.
Yeah, because he doesn't sound like a 1930s vampire.
Who's the kicker from Ace Ventura?
Finkel.
Yeah, Finkenstein. I don't know. It's a great name.
Von Finkenstein
has confirmed that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau consulted his office in advance of his latest Jamaican vacation, and he was within the rules to accept the gifted accommodation from a friend. Quoted, "He consulted us, and we advised him," von Finkenstein told MPs while testifying before the House of Commons Ethics Committee around the rules, gifts, and trips on Tuesday. He indicated that as far as the ethics office is concerned, the matter is closed.
Furthermore, I can't remember if it was in there or not, but von Finkelstein said that if the gift had been of an outrageous amount or value, he would have stepped in and stopped it. This vacation, which retailed...
Did you just say von Finkelstein?
Whatever the hell his name is.
Great.
I don't know.
That's great. I've gotten in your head.
I can't be the only person who butchers names on this, or you can't be the only person who butchers names on this show. So yes. Amazing. Anyway, yeah, they were totally laces out on this one again, and so he had said that if the gift had been of an outrageous value, that he would have shut that shit down. But the retail gift of that vacation was $84,000. At what point does it start being a little bit fucking ludicrous?
Carbon strategy taxing Liberal support. The federal government is considering a rebrand of the rebate program for its carbon pricing system in an attempt to tackle what it calls confusion and misconceptions about the scheme. The multi-department effort includes weighing whether a name change for the rebate would boost perceptions and ongoing efforts to improve banks' labeling of the quarterly payments. Any changes would come into place as the government rolls out its yearly update on the carbon price and the rebate.
Here's the thing. You know what would really turn around things as far as this carbon tax goes? Throwing it out the goddamned window. I don't think renaming it is it's not an empty wallet. It's a wallet void of money. There's no painting lipstick on this fucking pig, Sean, but I really hope they try.
I look forward to seeing what they call it. Liberals down but not out. Liberal candidate Fred Hutton has won the by-election in Conception Bay, East Bell Island, and will become Newfoundland and Labrador's newest MHA. Throughout all 51 reported polls, Hutton defeated PC candidate Tina Neary, 2,600 votes to 2,100, securing 45.9% of the vote. This win marks the first time the district has switched hands since 2003.
So to be clear, this is a provincial by-election, not a federal one.
Fair.
And Conception Bay, Newfoundland is a very appropriate name considering how well the Liberals are known for fucking the taxpayers.
The benefits of hoarding.
This is our happy news.
This is a cool story. Okay. A mysterious case of 1979 hockey cards has been found in Regina basement. Could fetch over $1 million and maybe more. Now, before I can say what type of hockey cards they are, does anybody want to just throw out a guess of one of your favorite hockey cards back in the time?
I know what it is because I'm the one who linked the story, but continue.
I'm just giving people time.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll throw it out. Throw it out. Does anybody even know what we're talking about? Maybe somebody else saw the story. Nobody's jumping in on it.
Okay.
Well, in the meantime, Zane said, oh, well, yeah, I guess there's that one too, because there was a whole bunch that popped up. Just texted to a couple other pics of the 60. He said it's a 60 Corvette, just finished for a customer last year. I prefer the 72, but that is nice.
Zane and Derek Homedall, you're right. O-Pee-Chee. Nice solid pick, though, David Robinson with Upper Deck. It is O-Pee-Chee. O-Pee-Chee is the cards. Okay, so inside the case are 16 unopened wax boxes of 1979-1980 O-Pee-Chee hockey cards with 48 packs of 10 cards per box, a total of 7,680 cards. For serious collectors, only around 20 of those matter based on statistical probability. That's how many pristine Wayne Gretzky rookie cards from the 78-79 season might be locked inside. No other unopened case of 79-80 O-Pee-Chees has ever surfaced in the 21st century, and it's all but impossible to imagine another ever will, Heritage Auction said in the description for the lot. As of Monday morning, bidding for the cases had surpassed $1 million. With the auction running through late February, the price could soar even higher. How cool of a find is that?
It's very cool. My uncle lives in Toronto, and he was garage sailing. And one year for Christmas, he gives me that year's set. And I had gone through, the hockey news. They had all the values of all the hockey cards in the back, and I went through, and I'm like, okay, I went through, and the only two cards I could find from that year that were missing from the set were the Gretzky rookie and Ken Dryden that year, which was, I think it was one of his last years. It might have been his last year, but it had the whole set. Other than that, and I'm like, oh. But I mean, it's still very cool.
I can't believe.
I guess I'm just missing the two cards. So maybe if they're in one of those cases, I'll be good.
Okay, that's a cool, happy story. Just saying, we don't talk enough hockey on this. Go Oilers, go! We'll see if they can tie the NHL record against Vegas tomorrow night, or as you're listening to this, it'll be Tuesday night they play. So we'll see if they can do that. That'll be interesting to watch. Thanks for coming in on 92. I think we did half decent too. A little Franco at the start, and then rattled off 30-some headlines in record time.
I was pretty excited to meet the guy.
Yeah, that was and good, Franco's well spoken.
Very.
That entire
organization,
Taxpayer Federation, they got some bangers in there.
Oh yes.
Okay, community notes here. This is we've been talking a lot about this, so let's rattle some things off here. Some things going on. Do you want to start twos with things, or do you want me to just slowly go through them?
You know what? Okay. First off, well done, lads. Love rapid fire. I got some really good feedback about that from my buddy Dave today too, and we've been buddies. You know those buddies that you've been buddies for 20 years, and you would never say a nice fucking thing to that guy if there was a gun to your head.
That's the guy?
That's the guy who said that he really enjoyed the rapid fire. And so it must have been pretty good for him to actually, say something nice about it. Because, as much as you just, have nothing but love and respect for your buddies, to admit it out loud would never happen. And so, yeah, anyway.
So what Twos is getting at is we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to just know if you guys are enjoying the format of rapid fire, of trying to rattle off, instead of 15 topics on the high side. Now we hit a high today at 32. And if that's something you enjoy, there's definitely a lot going on there. So whether it's text or leaving comments on social media, whatever, what have you, let us know about that. This Thursday, For the Kids' Sake, is doing a all candidates by-election debate. So that's going to be happening here in Lloydminster at the Legacy Center, 7 p.m.
Which by-election?
City by-election, sorry,
Okay.
for City Council. So that's going to be happening. That's this Thursday. We got Slim in Marwayne. We talked about, me and Twos went out there last year. He got us a table there, and it was Oh man, why am I
Gord
spacing?
Bamford.
Gord Bamford.
And
Thank you.
Dwayne Steele.
Yeah, and this year it's Aaron Goodvin, June 22nd.
Nice.
They also got the 12th annual PBR April 12th. So there's a couple things happening in Marwayne. They're raising money for the arena. Sounds like a new ice plant, among a couple other things. But as we all know, the arena in small town communities is the heartbeat of it. So if you can make those and support them, please do. April Hutchinson, you may recall from the podcast, she's just launched a new clothing line, or wow, I shouldn't say that. It's a new clothing line. She got new merch. So aprilhutchinson.com, you may recall she's the power lifter who's been suspended from her sport for talking out against transgendered women competing against her. So she's got an I Stand with Daniel Smith mug and a whole bunch of other things. I was showing twos earlier. I like the female XX, keep female sports female. So there's that. What else, twos?
Okay, I was on the Stevie B podcast the other day.
Stevie B's going live now.
Stevie B has finally dropped his first couple episodes, and if you don't know who that is yet, you can find out. I'll put a link in the show notes. Also on Twitter, I've retweeted it a little bit. You can find him on Twitter as well. I think he's on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe he's going to jump in, maybe not. And the other big announcement that I've been sitting on for a little while, because I'm far enough along with the negotiations with my employer that I can make this announcement that we're going to be trying to do 3 shows on my 222 cents a week starting in April.
How you doing, folks? How you doing? So more coming from twos.
So we're going to do the mashup. We're going to do some kind of a sit around bullshit with, I don't know, random odds and ends and friends and whatnot. And we're going to do the solos. The solos are coming back.
The solos are coming back. You realize how long, oh my goodness, this has been, how long has it been? 2 years?
No, it's been probably a year since the last time I did a solo one. But since they were out with any regular, since any regular frequency.
That's big news.
About 2 years.
That's big news. That's big news. Okay. What else do we got? I think that's pretty much got it all. I hope.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I should mention that interview I did with. I was on Stevie B's show, so you could go check out and hear. I don't know, more about me if you're bored. I guess. But it's also a really fun discussion. I wouldn't go there just to hear about my boring ass life, but it was a fun discussion.
Thanks to AMC Electrical for being today's episode sponsor. They are the month of February, so you're going to be hearing more about them. Drew McKay. If you're interested in being one of the month sponsors or just an episode sponsor, reach out to us. We'd love to showcase whatever you got cooking. We've had some really cool people over the course of the last year and a bit. Finally, Twos wanted me to read this off because he thought this was hilarious. So Sarah Lynn, wherever you're at listening to this, she texted me saying, my teens and I joke that when we listen to the 2'sDay mashup, it's called the fucking news.
I honestly, so one of the things with this update to the podcast is that the 2'sDay mashup is going to be just the mashup, and it's probably not going to be on Tuesday anymore. It's going to move somewhere. So it's just going to be the mashup, right?
Yeah,
so we need to start prepping people for that.
So final thought before we leave here is, yes, we're looking to do the 2'sDay mashup and cut it down to the mashup and get away from Tuesdays, not because we don't love Tuesdays and love all you fine folks, but we're trying to find a way that we can do it in the afternoon, roughly, or maybe morning. And so instead of it being at 9 o'clock at night and keeping everybody up late, we're looking at doing it sometime during the day, which is going to have to align with twos, and we'll see where that leads us to. So be on the lookout. That's going to slowly change here, twos, over the next couple months, correct?
2 months, yep.
Yeah.
We got 2 months to nail it down and move forward with that.
So lots.
We got to do a gradual transition in the branding from the 2'sDay mashup to just the mashup. But I think we should just start calling it the fucking news.
Twos like that. All right.
Oh, I love that.
All right, folks. We will catch you next week on Ryan Nugent Hopkins, the old 93. Okay?
All right. Seriously, that's the 93 you went with?
Who do you want? And what 93 do you want? You want Dougie Gill?
You think?
You want Dougie Gill? We could call it the Dougie Gilmore. Dougie Gill was a fan favorite.
Yeah, well, you leaving him out gave me the blues.
Folks, we'll catch up to you next week. Twos until then.
All right. Thanks, man.